One of my favorite things in the world to do is watch Friends. I know it's been off for years and years. It's not even around, but I still find myself binge watching old episodes. And I was thinking about this today and thinking, it's the predictability of the friends in the circle, right? You have Chandler with his quirkiness, Monica with her type A of just everything has to be so neat and tidy and organized. It's Phoebe's ability to make you laugh at her silly songs. Ross always comes in with those smart comments, and Joey and him and his food, like it is just so hilarious. And of course, Rachel, she just brings everybody together, and it's just such this beautiful, cohesive team of people. And it's why I wanted to come on and share with you today that I have an opportunity for you to find your friends in the content creation space. So if you are thinking about creating your first or your next digital course, I don't want you to miss this opportunity because Amy Porterfield just opened the doors for registration for her Course Confident Bootcamp. And I'm actually offering a special bonus for anyone that registers for the Course Confident Bootcamp through my special link. So I want you to go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register. That's crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And what you're going to find when you get there is I have this special bonus private podcast series. It's called Money Mindset for Creators. So I want you to go register for Amy's bootcamp, download the podcast, and immediately start listening to it, because what this training is set up to do is to help you get your mind right about monetizing your content, making money so that you can fuel your content creation dreams. So go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register for Course Confident. And I cannot wait for you to find your friends and find the people that will be there for you. Do you see what I did there? Yeah, nice little friends segue connection. Go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Okay, my sweet, sweet podcast friends. I am so excited that the day has finally come. Like, it is here. I have been sitting on this gold mine of an interview for what feels like years. No, it hasn't really been that long in all reality. I think it's been a few weeks, maybe, like not quite 2 months, but I recorded this. And I just kept thinking, I need to clear my entire calendar. I need to get this to them immediately as soon as I recorded it. And I'm glad that I didn't do that, because I have some actual real world results to share with you that have come from this interview and the person behind the mic. So I'm so happy to introduce you to Justin Moore. So Justin is actually a sponsorship coach and the founder of the Creator Wizard. I've actually mentioned him a few times on the podcast since we originally met. So I met Justin at the ConvertKit conference, so Craft and Commerce, earlier this year in Boise, Idaho. And ever since, I was enthralled. I don't know. That's like the adjective that was coming to mind right now. But I was so taken back by his energy to help creators. I went down a rabbit hole on his YouTube channel, which I know you're going to do the same. Once you meet him today, you're absolutely going to do the same, because he's energetic and the dude knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. Between him and his wife, April, they've been full-time creators for over 8 years and have personally made over $4 million working with brands. Yeah, they're kind of a big deal. And he also ran an influencer marketing agency for over 7 years that has helped other creators earn an additional $3 million. And I feel like this stat is probably outdated at this point, because he's helped me make some money. And I'm like, Justin, we need to have another conversation so we can add some of those numbers. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not making millions behind the scenes, but he's helped me make some money. And I cannot wait for you to hear all the things that he has to share. So let's get right to it. Welcome to the Profit Podcast, where we teach you how to start, launch, and market your content with confidence. I'm your host, Crystal Profit, and I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me today, because if you've been trying to figure out the world of content creation, this is the show that will help be your time-saving shortcut. So let's get right to it, shall we? All right, Profit Podcast listeners, we have an extra special guest today because we have shared a dance floor. We need to start there today. So we have shared a dance floor. I don't know that I could say that about any of my other guests. So this is super special. So welcome to the show, Justin. Happy to have you.
I'm excited to be here. And you know, the other reason that it's extra special is I've got a soundboard. I don't think you knew that was coming, but anytime we drop some gems, I might bust that out. Maybe some jokes. I've got some things coming that I don't think you're quite ready for. So
just full of surprises. It's kind of like when you busted out the worm at Craft and Commerce. This is the dance floor that we speak of. And it was fantastic. It was so, yes, everything.
Was it the best caterpillar you ever saw? And because the answer is yes, like what would you rate it out of a 10?
Oh, that's a really good question. You know, I, at my age and I have slight back problems too. I'm like, there's physically no way that I would have been able to do that. So I'm going to give you a 10 out of 10 because it's just physically not possible for me. It was so impressive.
I must say I am the ripe old age of 37 now, and I was hurting a little bit afterwards because I haven't done it in a few years. So, but it's like I'm known for that. Every wedding, everything, I busted out at least once. So, but it was
muscle
fun.
Memory. You were like, there's music, it has to happen. Yes, it was.
And I mean, when you saw that happen, you're like, I have to have this dude on the podcast. Like, there's no.
Of course, that was the selling point. That was the selling point.
I knew it. Yeah.
No, actually, you blew my mind. So you are brand new to me as of this year. I had not heard about you. I didn't know exactly who you were. And this is really important because I like to share the behind the scenes for our audience. Like I share all the details and the actual journeys that we go on as creators of content, but also consumers of content, because I want to get the audience thinking in that mindset of, well, what do I think about whenever I'm ready to buy a product? Or what do I think about when I'm tempted to go follow someone on Instagram or watch their YouTube or listen to their podcast? And so for you specifically, I learned about you by watching your keynote at Craft and Commerce, which was awesome. I took so many pictures that I eventually was like, Justin, here's all the pictures I took of you on stage. But I took one specifically that I wanted to talk about today. And it was all about finding your niche. Now, we're going to talk about sponsorships today and, money mindset and even some fun things that we have coming up. But when I saw this slide about finding your niche, I was like, this is what my audience needs, because there's a great mix of beginners and middle of the road and some seasoned pros. But if someone's listening right now and they're like, Crystal, y'all are going to talk about sponsorships, but I don't even necessarily know who I'm talking to. Like, what would you say to them?
I think the biggest concern that a lot of creators earlier on in their journey have around picking a niche or a lane or something like that is that it's going to, number one, limit their potential audience size, but also limit their potential opportunities, because they think, okay, well, if I'm in this really, really narrow niche, like who's going to are there really people out there who are like, trying to, they have celiac disease and they want to find gluten-free recipes, but they're also on a budget. It's like the more like boxes you check off, am I really going to be that podcaster who is so narrow that I can't, I limit my potential reach. And I think it's this very contradictory, or this not obvious thing, but do you want to be the one of 10,000 or one of 100,000 generic food blogger? Or do you want to be the big fish in a small pond, essentially, right? It's there may be a handful of other people who are speaking to that gluten-free celiac lifestyle audience, but who do you think those gluten-free brands are going to go to? Who do you think, when a busy mom or busy dad of a family is trying to figure out how to, create recipes for their whole family that are also delicious and gluten-free. Who are they going to purchase, their checklist? It's going to be the person that is like speaking specifically to them. And so I think it's not obvious, but it really, in my experience, and again, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of creators across all sorts of different niches and platforms and all that stuff. And almost every single scenario, the people who are kind of at the top of their game, they all have some thing that you could be like, oh, this is what they focus on. It's like, look at me, I'm a sponsorship coach, right? And how much more niche can you get? And I know I'm going to preempt some of you who might be listening or watching who are saying, yeah, but there's all these like lifestyle creators or vloggers, and they like talk about a lot of things. And it's like, those are the exception. Right? Those are the people who, and oftentimes actually, if you go back and dig into their history, they actually didn't start that way. They started in like a very narrow area, and they developed this kind of core passionate audience of that topic. And then they started branching out. And so I think it's this misnomer to look at all the top people, the top generalist creators out there and be like, well, look at them, they're doing it. And it's like, yeah, but you don't realize where they came from. And so I think it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the right one.
Being a woman in business comes with its own unique set of challenges, but also so many opportunities. We get ahead by leaning in to what makes us different from business as usual. I'm Samantha Hartley, host of Profitable Joyful Consulting, inviting you to a special 6-episode series exploring the experience of being a woman in business. You want to hear from women consultants who've hit $1 million, who sell 6-figure engagements, or who've broken their own revenue ceilings? Yeah, those are my clients, and they'll be sharing too. Join me for 6 must-listen episodes that tackle key challenges for women consultants.
Follow Profitable Joyful Consulting on your favorite podcast app.
I'm so glad that that's where the conversation went, because you started in makeup, technically. So can you tell a little bit about your backstory? We were like, hang on, Crystal, we don't want that to be the clip that goes out to the world, but tell us about you getting your start into content creation and your creator journey.
Yeah. So to clarify, I do not wear makeup, but my wife does. And so that is how I actually got my start. So honestly, I owe everything to her, because I was not doing this prior. Like, I was in medical devices, and it was actually my wife, April, who started her first YouTube channel in 2009, way back in the day, before like being a creator, being an influencer was a thing. Back in the day, before there was a partner program on YouTube. Most people don't remember that. Like, back in the day, you could not make money on YouTube. There was no revenue share with AdSense or anything like that. And so we were like, we like to think of ourselves as kind of the like OG creators. There's this like crew of us, like, it was not that many people back in the day. Like, it was a very small community, especially people who were kind of in the beauty space. And then we started vlogging. And so we got a trial by fire experience of being a creator in the early days. Again, it wasn't called creator, like YouTuber. That's what everyone was, YouTubers. It was not like, it wasn't this creator influencer that didn't even exist yet. And so what happened for us is that, like, brands started reaching out initially offering free stuff. Right. And so my wife was thrilled, because beauty products are expensive, hair tools, curling irons, like, this type of thing. And so she was like, yes, this is amazing. Right. And it's like, again, didn't really think that this could be a moneymaker, right? Because that wasn't, no one around us, no one we knew, no one was really making money. Right. It was very much a hobby. And so this was in 2009 again. And so we started getting free stuff for the first, 2-3 years. And then around 2012, a Korean skincare company, or Korean like online store that sold a bunch of different products, reached out to my wife and said, hey, well, actually, we'd be interested in compensating you, like paying you every month for, let's say, 3-6 months to make a video, including our products, talk about our brand. And my wife came to me again. I was still in medical advice. She's like, this brand's actually offering to pay me money. Like, can you help with this? And so by that time I was actually in business school at the time. And so I was like, here I am, Mr. MBA. Like I can figure this out. Like, let me read this contract. Of course I had no idea what I was doing. And like, I remember we roped in our family lawyer who like helped us with our like trusts and wills and like all the family planning and stuff. And she was like, what are you doing on the internet? Like, what is this? This is a bizarre contract, this type of thing. And so, but again, like we had no idea what we were doing. And so, we ultimately, like, this was crazy. Our first deal with that brand was a 6-month deal, and they paid my wife $700 a month for 6 months. And that blew our mind. It was a lot of money. It's still a lot of money. Like that, like it was, I'll never forget that. Because at the time, again, we were like just out of college, a couple of years out of college. My wife was a preschool teacher. Again, I was like kind of my first job, like in medical devices. And so we weren't making a ton of money. And so like, this was like utilities, groceries, like that was how we translated it in the early days. It was like, this is crazy. And so immediately our thoughts was like, whoa, this is a thing. Like, what if we could get 10 brands, to like pay us this every month? Like, this is amazing. And so we went down this really quick rabbit hole of like, okay, brand sponsorships. Like this could very quickly like rival the YouTube AdSense earning at the time when we were starting to make money there. So, we just the gears started turning for us. We started, kind of planning like what would it take for us to grow this really big. Eventually we, over the course of several years, I quit she quit her full-time job. And then 2 years later, I quit my full-time job. At the same time, I started, basically like the story is that things were going really well. And the planner in me, I'm always like, this is going well now, but what if it all comes crashing down? What if people stop watching? What if we don't get as many deals as we're getting right now? And so I was like, how can I figure out how to kind of diversify our income at this point? And so I was like, at this time we've done quite a few sponsorships, and I think we're pretty good at it. Like they keep coming back to us. We're getting repeat customers. What if I created basically like an agency to help bring deals to other creators, and basically take a cut for managing the logistics of the campaign? And so that's what I did. I called up a bunch of our friends in the early days, and I was like, hey, I don't want to, I'm not like proposing to manage you. This is going to be non-exclusive, but can I put you in a deck and bring you business if a brand like wants to work with you? And they're like, sure. Right. It was like, of course, like it's like a win-win. Like who wouldn't want that? Right. And so that's what I did. I like 30 of our like friends on YouTube at the time. I like put them in a deck, and I like my angle was that all of the people in our kind of roster were family friendly. My agency was called Trending Family. And so it was actually a really timely pitch at that time in the 2015, 2016 time, because I don't know if you remember on YouTube at those times, the like brand safety was like a huge issue, because all these brands were getting embroiled. Their ads were running against like really like hateful content and all this stuff. And all these advertisers were pulling out. And so I was out here in the marketplace being like, I only work with people who are family friendly. They're not swearing in their content. And so basically advertisers were like lining up to work with us. And so it was like very quickly, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. It was amazing. Right. And I was like, this is working. Right. And so very quickly I got this education of like the other side of it. It was like, here we were getting a bunch of deals personally, but now I'm in the boardrooms with like these big brands and these big agencies. And now we're talking like several $100,000, $1 million on like this big campaign with 50, 100 creators. What's the strategy and like all this stuff? And so I just learned over 7 years running the agency, this really doing thousands of deals with other creators, millions of dollars, that it's just like a whole different ball game when it comes to doing that. And so those were my two experience sets. And I'll take a pause here because I know that was a lot, and see if have any questions there, because really everything that happens here led to what I'm doing now, which is the sponsorship coaching.
Yeah, no, I love having the context of your journey, because I think there's so many times, and this is what I really like to do with guests that come onto the show, is reminding the audience that what you're doing today is not what you started out doing. So, I mean, you just heard the entire genesis from 2009 to what you're doing today. And it is, I mean, you couldn't even put them in the same categories, not even remotely close to what it is, but go back to, it's the experience, it's the expertise, it's the baptism by fire is what we would call it in the South, right? It's the getting in there, getting your hands dirty, having your own experiences, and then turning around and sharing that journey. And you're using that on your content, your YouTube channel. Oh my gosh, go run to Justin's YouTube channel. Like, it's going to be linked in the show notes. It is a wealth of knowledge. Your newsletter, like all the things that you're creating today are so valuable. And I see, man, this is fancy. It's all put together so nicely. But I like to hear the story of, we didn't know what we were doing and we were just trying something. And I'm sure it was like stuff that your wife really enjoyed. It was like, because I hear you like, oh my gosh, like beauty products are crazy expensive. But I love that it was just like, let's try this out. Let's give it a shot. And there was no real expectation of what it is today of we have to make money, because so many people, and I'd love for you to talk about this, is so many people want to start a podcast. And the immediate first question isn't, how can I create something I love? It's, I need to create this and make money tomorrow. And I'm like, back up a second. So what would you say to someone that has that mentality of just getting started and they have that expectation from either someone told them or just ignorance to the entire creator economy of that's not necessarily how it works?
Well, it's a really great point because, like you said, early on, 10 years ago, even 5-6 years ago, like, monetizing was not the first thing that most folks thought of when they got into the game. Like, for us, it definitely wasn't, because you couldn't, right? But for the next generation who's coming up now, especially on platforms like TikTok and so on, like, it's so much less stigmatized. It's so much more normalized to monetize your influence and your audience way earlier in the journey than it was for creators of the previous generation. I don't I think a lot of like OG creators like have this kind of get off my lawn attitude when it comes to this type of thing. Like, back in the day, when I got into it, I was just in it for pure hobby and all this stuff. And so I do think that, like, I get that, but then I also do think that it actually is a good thing. Like, it's a good thing that there's so many more tools for people these days to monetize than there ever was, even 6 years ago. And so I actually think it's a really positive trend. However, the thing that I think is really important to, even though the tools are there, if you don't put the work in to illustrate to your audience how you can be valuable to them, then it's going to be very challenging and you're going to spin your wheels a lot. If, you have a podcast for a month or two and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, by the way, I've got some, you want to hire me as your coach, or you want to buy a course from me, this type of thing. And so I think that a lot of people's like horror stories or really kind of, they get jaded about the whole process is that they really try to, act on that way too quickly before they've really been able to establish that connection with their audience. I mean, look, for example, when I started doing the sponsorship coaching, can we talk about failure for a second, Crystal? Because I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yes.
Okay. Because the story of how Creator Wizard was born is one of failure. And I talked about this in my keynote, which was that, my agency actually crashed and burned. This agency I just shared, where I ran for 7 years, right when COVID hit, like at the height, I, had multiple full-time employees. Like our payroll at the height of it was like $50K a month. So imagine, like, there's like crazy, right? And so we were, things seemed like they were going well. We had all these deals in the pipeline, and all of a sudden then COVID hit and everything crashed and burned. Like, all the deals that we were relying on didn't come through. I had to lay off all my employees, which was literally the lowest point of my life. It was awful. I loved working with the people that I did. And so here I was in this like really, really low place. Where, we had lots of success personally, but this big initiative that I had, the agency that I tried to launch to help diversify our income as creators, the thing I spent 7 years trying to do, or at that time, 5 years when COVID happened, it didn't work out. And that was such a blow to not only my ego, but a blow to like, the future. I thought that this was going to be the future. Like, it would allow us to slow down on social media, which was like our primary revenue stream still. And so it was really, really, again, it was like the lowest point, like emotionally and personally and professionally. And so speaking to this whole idea of how all of your experiences color your journey, I was in this this nadir of my life, and I was like, this whole dichotomy that I just described around being a creator, doing all these deals, but also having seen the other side of it, and being in the conversations with these big brands, like that's actually kind of interesting, right? And I see a lot of mistakes that creators are making when they interact with brands, or because I've been on the receiving end of these emails from creators where they're super unprofessional and really rude and all that stuff too. I was like, maybe let me make a few YouTube videos, like kind of teaching people like this is how you should draft an email to a brand. This is how you should behave on a phone call. This is how you should pitch a brand. This is how you can negotiate, right? And so I created these videos with no expectation, zero. I was like, this is just scratching a creative itch. Like this has to exist. I need this to be out there if I can help anyone. And so for the first literally year of creating this content, helping creators, you literally could not pay me. There was no way. I didn't do coaching. I didn't have a course. I didn't have anything. And I think that went so far to build kind of credibility and illustrate to people that I'm really, truly their advocate here. And it really was more of a pull approach than a push approach. I wasn't pushing stuff on my audience. It was like people all of a sudden came in my DMs. They came in my emails like, hey, can you coach me? Hey, I don't have a manager. Can you look at this contract for me? I need your help. So very much, I think that there is this reciprocation that happens when you spend a bunch of time devoting yourself to serving. And then people start to feel this void that I want to do something in return. I want to purchase something from them, or I want to buy their time, or want to do something. And I think that only happens with time.
100% agree. And that's one of the things that I think is so important to people listening. So, I mean, what I heard you say is you got to have value. You have to establish that trust, that know, like, and trust factor, however you want to call it. But it's you have to know that this person isn't just trying to sell you snake oil, right? Or whatever they're trying to do. And you can only do that by consistently showing up and adding value. So 100% agree on that. But I love that you had this creative itch, because I love this so much. And this is why I'm so drawn to other creators, because you get it. I get it. When you say that, I'm like, oh, that's why I immediately thought about a video that popped into my head that was it did not perform well. No one cared about it, but I had so much fun. I had so much fun creating it. So I don't even care. So we totally see eye to eye on that. And I love that you said about, you have to have this established relationship with your audience, but also you have to have some of those reps under your belt before brands can take you seriously. Because honestly, I didn't take myself seriously. So can we talk about that for a second? It's it takes this muscle of I can show up on video, I can sound confident on video, and not this should I look at the camera? Should I look over here? Am I looking at the lens, or do I look at the screen? There's so many awkward things that happen in the first beginning journey of being a creator that you have to stumble through and figure out. But I think it's so important that we create things just because we truly are so passionate about it. And I want to touch on this real fast, and then we can get into some fun, Justin's going to coach me live on the air, guys. So this is pretty fun.
Yes.
But before we get there, I want to talk about your commitment, because I love this so much. So you have this commitment to help creators, and you have a goal that I believe is so incredible. So can you talk about that for a second?
Of course. So let's talk about educating yourself and always being a student of your craft. I was in a mastermind. Okay. I spent $10,000. This is the most amount of money that I spent it. I put it on my credit card. This is the single most expensive thing I've ever, it was am I really going to do this? Right. But it was a mastermind for course creators to help them basically take their program to the next level. And I really felt at that time, I had a couple cohorts in my program under my belt, and I felt as though that I really wanted to invest in myself, right? And so one of the exercises as part of being in this program early on was they brought this expert in to help everyone in there hone in on their North Star, their vision. Basically, it was a visioning exercise. And what it encouraged you to do was think way far out. Like we're talking 10 years out, 20 years out, something like that. Like what is the impact that you want to have? And like, that was an exercise I've never really done before. I've always been kind of living in the moment. And I've always been so tickled by like, oh, I make $500 here, $1,000 here. It's like, it has never been, I help these people. Like they got their first brand deal. Like that was what was awesome to me. Right. But this exercise really forced me to think like, what is the impact that I want to have? And so what came out of that process was my vision is that I want to help creators big and small land 1 million sponsorships by 2032. So in 9 years from the date of this recording. And the reason that this fires me up so much is that there's a couple reasons. Number one is that there's a very specific reason why I made it 1 million sponsorships and not 1 million creators, because it's way more fulfilling to me to help one creator get 100 sponsorships than it is to get 100 creators one. Because my whole thing is that I want to help people create a sustainable livelihood doing this, right? And so the word choices really matter. Like the specifics of the goal really, really matter. The other reason that it matters is that if my goal was to help 1 million creators, I would make my course $50 or $100 because the goal would be scale at that point. But from the beginning, my goal has always been, I want to help an intimate group cohort of people. My cohort's been capped at 50 creators. When I do the live ones, they're capped at 50 creators each time. And so again, it's like very, very intentionally. And so like to me, these things matter. The other reason it matters is that I think that, and a lot of folks listening or watching may have felt this at some point in their creator journey, is that you may tend to look at other people who are succeeding on social media. You look at their views, you look at their metrics, they're getting these great opportunities, these great partnerships, and it doesn't feel great sometimes. It's either it's FOMO, or you feel like you suck, or you're like compared to them. There's no way you'll ever get to their level. Because I've been there. I like at various points throughout my journey, I have absolutely been there. And even like recently, even as recently as a couple of years ago, and it's like, I'll never be able to get to there. Like these people are having like $1 million years, or like, $10,000 months, or whatever the metric is in your niche or whatever. And creating this really long vision helped slow everything way down for me, because I realized like I'm in this for the long haul. It does not matter like whether my post gets 100 likes or 10 likes, on a day-to-day basis, like whether my views, my YouTube videos get 500 views or 5,000. It really doesn't matter. What matters is how I'm helping people on a day-to-day basis. And as long as I'm marching along to this really long-term goal that I have, that gave me so much peace and allowed me to double back down on the creativity and the love for the service and the craft, because like at the end of the day, that's what gets me out of bed every day is helping people. Right. And so I'm just such a big fan of like figuring out what is that North Star for you and your business, because it can really help inform both your content and your business strategy.
I love this so much. Like, okay, do you have a mic drop sound effect? I need a sound effect.
I don't, but how about I'll do this? But I have a buzzer. I use the buzzer on my podcast, but that's not quite right. So I don't know what to do. I need something else.
We look at the explosion, like what goes like just blowing everybody's mind.
I need an explosion. That's a great one, actually. Yeah.
Because that was so good. And I love this. And that's another thing I think that I'm really drawn to heart-centered creators and educators and teachers, because you can feel it right away. I can spot people a mile away, like 20 miles away, like around the globe, when they're just like, give me your money. That's all I'm after. Just give me some money and then we can part ways. And that is it.
Man.
And I have felt it from the beginning that you have this big-hearted creator mentality that is trying to not only rise up individual creators, but the entire creator economy all together, because it is something where people can make a big impact, make a full-time income, and be able to like have incredible experiences. Like I won't get into all the details. Y'all go check out Justin. Like they've talked about, they had their honeymoon paid for. They had, these crazy cruises they've gone on, all these like really fun things that you've had. And it all goes back to that Genesis moment of exploring your creativity and putting something out and just trying. So I love that so much, but I'm going to leave this.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. Honestly. Thank you. That's very, very kind of you to say.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm Okay, so full disclosure, I joined Justin's program as of today.
Oh, here we go. I was like, I literally saw I have like a Zap set up into like my thing, like every time I get a purchase. And I was like, wait a minute, Crystal. Like, I know Crystal. I was like so excited. Exactly.
Like,
I was like, wow, she's really doing her research for this podcast. Like, my goodness.
Okay, so it's so funny because, as of us recording this, like, of course, things will be different, when you're listening to this, but as of us recording this, Justin had opened up a new live cohort. And ever since Craft and Commerce, I've been opening your emails, reading what you're doing, looking at all the YouTube stuff. And then I realized who I am in the sponsorship scenario of everything. I am someone who I have done a few sponsored deals when people have reached out to me that are specific to the podcast industry. And I have just been like, someone wants to give me money? Yeah. And there hasn't been any like, hey, this is actually what my time is worth or my entire audience, because they asked for one specific thing. And I didn't know, I could include newsletters and YouTube video and like all these other pieces of it. So that's kind of where I am in my journey, is looking at all the opportunities and the pieces of my network that I just haven't even explored. We're not even talking about like, let's think off the wall and, creative ideas. I'm talking about just what is available to me in front of me today. So do you have any tips on someone that I kind of feel like I'm stumbling through this. It's like the next chapter of my journey. I've been creating for several years, and now I'm looking at how can I make a bigger impact and really connect into those sponsorship networks.
Love to hear it. So first and foremost, like, I want to acknowledge you for having the self-awareness there, because this is a really common thing, like to get so starstruck when especially like big name brands or big name companies like land in your inbox and you're like, oh, me? Really? Are you? Because that's how we were. That's totally how we were. We were just like, they seriously? And especially it was like, doesn't matter if they wanted to pay us. It was free stuff. Yeah. Oh, exactly. Free stuff. Thank you. Yes. Free access to your software. Yes, please. I'll tell everyone about it. Right. And so it's like, because here's the other thing. The reason I think that it feels that way is that it feels validating. Right. Like all this work that I've put in, publishing, engaging with my audience, all this, I'm finally getting recognized. I'm finally getting on the radar. And so it just kind of like floats away from your brain that like, wait a minute, like it could still feel validating, but at the same time, I need to just like, tamper down. I can still be excited about it, but I still need to make sure that I'm advocating for myself and advocating for my worth. And that's a really hard thing to do in the beginning, especially with the first few deals. And I totally acknowledge that. And so I wanted to mention that piece. The first thing, when it comes specifically to your business, the first thing I like to do whenever people book me on calls or my course or whatever is like do an analysis, do a survey of all the different ways in which you are both serving your audience, but also how you may be able to serve prospective partners. And so I'd love to hear from you. Like, tell me what are all the different content platforms, content formats? You've got the podcast, YouTube channel, like maybe you have a newsletter, like what are the different things that you got going on?
Yeah. So for me, the largest, right? Because we always like to start with the most like I'm the star student. This is exactly who I was in school. I was like, let me be the A student. So on YouTube, this where I have the biggest platform. And then I'm connected in Instagram. It's
how many subscribers? So like, just so we get some numbers here.
Like 7,000 right now on YouTube.
All right.
And then on Instagram, 2,500. It's not a ton. Okay. And then email subscribers.
Stop. No, don't say not a ton.
Mindset.
Not okay. Not okay. Remove that from your language. All right. Okay. Restart. Go ahead.
What's where I'm starting on my Instagram influence.
Yep.
And then newsletter. I have a weekly newsletter that I'm sending out. I also publish for my podcast. So this is where things get a little weird and because I don't have sponsorship in my mind for one podcast. I have two podcasts. One's a daily show. It's 5 minutes or less. And then I have this show, which I publish consistently once a week. And then I also take the content from here and publish it on my website as a blog post. Okay. So it kind of serves, it's multi-purposed. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. When these sponsors or these brands that you did work with reached out to you initially? I'm assuming they were inbound. It wasn't something you pitched.
Correct. And they were actually as part of like, I'm one of their creators. So I was an affiliate for them in some capacity. And then they said, hey, you already promote us. Then let's work together to create some video content for our YouTube channel. So that's really what it was.
Okay, so like learning moment right here for anyone like who just caught that. A lot of people think like, I don't want to be an affiliate. I don't want to make 20%, 30% commission or whatever. I'm not going to do that. You just heard right here, Crystal was able to get a deal because that's how the relationship started. A lot of brands, I think this is a really interesting learning moment, which is that a lot of brands will go to their pool of affiliates first to try to source partners for some of these flat compensation type partnerships, because they already know that these people are built-in brand advocates. They know the brand cold. They don't need to educate them, this type of thing. And so there is value in the beginning when you're very early on in your journey from being affiliates and getting some repetitions and that type of thing. And being able, like the easiest one in my mind is just become an Amazon associate, become an Amazon affiliate. Right. Like that's a very easy way. If you sell if you talk about anything tangible at all, and that could potentially be sold on Amazon, that could start to be the seedlings of you illustrating to future partners that you have influence, right? That people actually, when you say, hey, I love this thing, and people go out and buy it, like you can use that as like an indicator that you could potentially be a good partner for them. So I just wanted to mention that because I think that's really important thing to know. And so tell me more about the dynamics of the deal. So they reach out to you, they said, hey, make some content to live on our platform, it sounds like. And we're going to get the usage rights to like do that. So it didn't go live on your platform?
So one of them went live on my platform, and it was a one-time, hey, create this video for us. They were kind of dictating, this is what they wanted to launch this video around the new year when people want to start podcasts. So it was very podcast heavy focused. It was on my platform. And then for the other instance, it was for another brand, and it was multiple videos released over time. And that's the only one that I actually had a contract. And I know I'm like, oh, I've been diving into the program, and I'm like, so many lessons learned already. But that's the first one. I didn't even there was no contract. It was I don't even know if it was an email agreement. It could have been they paid me. Everything turned out great. And it
was like a smoke signal, like carrier pigeon. Like it was crazy.
There was nothing legitimate about it. Like now that I look back, I'm like, I don't even know if there's a paper trail to that thing even happening, but it happened. I was compensated for it, but lesson learned, holy moly. There was not really a lot discussed about deliverables or expectations outside of, this is what we want. Can you do it? Sure. You're gonna pay me? Oh, sure. Let's make it happen. So
right. So the reason that I like dissecting deals that you've already done is because obviously you analyzing things in hindsight when you're going through, for example, my program and learning lessons learned, contracts, etc. Like that's all good and well, but there is other things about what I just heard that I think are, potentially really important things to realize about how you can pitch them down the line in the future. So one thing that I heard, which I think is pretty interesting, is that one of the reasons why they wanted to partner with you is because they need content. Mm-hmm. It's not just about, getting in front of your audience. It's that they, for some reason, maybe they either didn't have anyone internally who could generate content on their marketing team, or they didn't want to outsource that competency to an agency or a freelance videographer or, a photographer or whatever type of brand it is. They decided that like, okay, we're going to go tap into our pool of affiliates. Like this is the way in which we're going to get content. Right. And so I think that this is a really important note, which is that the next thing you should have done right after that partnership ended would have been like, hey, I can create a steady flow of content for you every month. We will turn this into a ongoing thing. Every month, I will give you content for your YouTube channel. I'll give you cuts of it so that you can repost it on your Instagram. I'll create 15-second versions of this that you can run for paid advertising, right? And so it's like, it starts to all of a sudden realize that like, wow, brands actually they don't have it all figured out. Like I can actually help them do things. They don't have to hire a full-time employee for this. I can be a freelancer. There's a lot of advantages for this type of relationship. And so what I teach creators a lot is like, read between the lines. When a brand is asking you to do something, it doesn't just mean it's just this. It's like fixed and like this is the only thing they ever want you to do. It's like you should read between the lines and be like, okay, if they wanted me to do this, chances are they might want me to do this other thing too. And so I should just shoot my shot and see what they say.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much, especially in looking back at those, because these really happened in 2021. So it's been quite a while since I've like had time to reflect on it and how everything happened. And if I were to go back in time and really evaluate how one validating, you like hit right on it. I was like, they want to pay me. I'm validated. Oh my gosh, this is going to change my life. They're like all those things went through my head. But now having some distance from it, I can see so clearly that one, I was underpaid so much on the second deal that I did. It was not worth the time that I put into it. So I'd be so curious to hear like the deliverables in looking at what I do today and how much I delivered for them. It was like the expectations of so many videos over so much time. And then come to find out, there's other creators within that same network that were getting paid 4, 5x that amount that I got paid. And so it was like, I don't feel good about that. So
Got you.
So there's kind of two parts to my question is, does that happen often? And two, is there a way to, I guess, kind of reframe working with a brand that maybe you didn't have a great experience with in the past? Maybe it was one specific manager or someone that person has turned over. There's a new person, there's a new sheriff in town, and you should reach back out to them.
100%. So to speak to the first point around, is this common, for certain creators in the same campaign to get compensated wildly differently? And the answer is 100%. Yeah. So I'm going to put on my agency hat for a second here, having run that for many years. How it happens, I'm going to give you the behind the scenes here. Okay. So a big brand will come to my agency. Either it's the brand directly, or it's a very large brand's agency, like their media agency, it's called, or PR agency, someone who's like on retainer for this brand, handling a lot of different things for them. And this agency over here, or the brand, says, we want to work with influencers. We believe that influencer marketing is an important tactic for us generally. And so they will then reach out to our agency because we are purpose built to do that function. So they say, hey, we help with the brand with a lot of other things, but like this one thing we're not really good at, like, and it seems like you're the expert there. So we want to hire you. We want to subcontract you to handle this campaign for us. What oftentimes happens is that they will send us what's called an RFP, which is a request for proposal. And so what that means is that our agency has to enter the octagon with a bunch of other agencies to compete for the budget. And so it doesn't mean that we are going to like automatically win the deal. There may be 10 other quote unquote influencer marketing agencies who are also submitting proposals. And it's like, who does the best, like, dog and pony show to win the deal. And so what oftentimes happens is that the brand will say, okay, we want to spend $500K, $100K, $1 million, whatever it is, $50K. And so give us a proposal of like, what's the platform strategy? What platforms should we be activating on? What types of creators? Give us a short list of like potential partners that you think might be a good fit for us. And so everyone puts together a deck basically. And then the brand, if you make it past if you ultimately win the deal, then let's say we won the deal for $100K as an agency, and we had a short list of creators that they wanted to, potentially work with. That's when we're going to do the outreach to you. And so there's this thing that there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes that I don't think creators realize that happen way before the brand or the agency reaches out to you. And you may be in decks that you don't even know about, right? Where this agency, what we always sought to do was do some soft vetting first, right? Because the last thing that we wanted is like put Crystal in a deck. The brand gets really excited about working with you, and they're like, we'll give you the green light. And then we reach out, and Crystal's like, I don't want to work with that brand. I hate them. Yeah. They suck. Right. And so then we have to go back to the brand and be like, oh yeah, I know we said that Crystal's excited, but I changed, not going to happen. Right. And so we always strove to like trying to get some soft buy-in first. But basically, let's say we won the deal, we have $100K to play with, and we're going to work with, let's say 10 creators. we have the same scope of work for everyone. Everyone's going to do 2 YouTube videos and 2 Instagram posts. And, you get usage rights for paid media and you get exclusivity for 30 days, whatever it is that everyone's kind of has a unified, scope of work usually. And so then we're going to reach out, and every creator, you could have let's say all 10 of those creators or have 50,000 followers, whatever. Everyone's going to charge differently because there's no standardized like pricing. Right. And so part of the agency's job is to Tetris the budget together. So you come in here and this person comes in at 10,000, this person comes in at 1,000, this person comes in at 5,000, right? And so their job is to just like kind of Frankenstein this program together to a point where they can just go back to the brand and be like, we locked in everyone. We got the, we were able to make it work under budget. And so the agency has really no incentive for you to be like, I know you told me your quote's 1,000, but you should really charge 5,000, right? There's no real incentive for them to do that because they'll be able to save that budget for bringing in other, creators into the program essentially, right? And so this is part of the reason why I felt so driven to help creators advocate for themselves, because there's no one else advocating for creators, like, because the economics don't make sense for anyone to really tell you like, hey, you should charge more, right? And so I think that's like a answering your first question. Yes, it absolutely happens. And that's why you do need to educate yourself around this space. The second thing is how can you figure out just even directionally, like how to understand your worth and like how much you should charge and all this stuff too. We could probably do a whole podcast episode on pricing for sure. In fact, like one huge module of my program is all about pricing and negotiating. But really at the end of the day, there's 2 main suggestions that I have when it comes to like tactically how you can understand like numbers, right? The first one is, when you're in a conversation with a brand and they're telling you about their objectives and they're telling you what they want you to do, and you have no idea how much to charge, you can say something very simple, which is like, hey, look, this is all like very exciting. I'm definitely interested in this. I would love to go back and put together a proposal for you of how I would love to bring this campaign to life. Typically, what I like to do is put together a couple different tiers to give you a sense of what's possible. Do you have a sense, brand? Do you, brand, have a sense of what those 3 budget tiers should be? And then you shut up. Like what's feasible for you from a budget perspective? You say, what are those 3 tiers? And then you shut up. You don't say anything. You lean into the silence. It's going to be very scary and imposter syndrome inducing. But one of 2 things is going to happen. They're either going to say something. They're going to say, oh, 1, 2, 3K, or 5, 10, 15K, or 50, 100, 150K, right? It's like whatever it is. And you're going to learn a couple things. You're going to learn if they say 5, 10, 15K or something like that, you're probably going to spend a lot more work on that proposal than you would the person who's saying like 2, 3, 400, right? That's number one. The second thing is that by giving them packages, you're also going to give them the opportunity to learn about other parts of your business, how you can serve them, right? Because they may have reached out about the podcast or the YouTube channel or the whatever it is. And then it takes you putting the packages together to be like, by the way, I have this newsletter with 5,000 people of your exact persona on there. I really believe that we should include that as part of this partnership. And they're like, oh, we didn't even know you had the newsletter, right? And so like, that's a really, really big reason that you always want to be providing packages whenever a brand reaches out. So that's one scenario. They're going to tell you something, right? And in my experience, I've done this over hundreds and hundreds of conversations and deals. Brands are going to tell you about 75% of the time, at least in my experience, is they're going to tell you something, right? 25% of the time, they're going to throw it back to you. They're going to be like, we don't know. We've never done this. You tell us, right? It's like who says, it's like who, this old negotiation adage, like whoever says the first number loses basically, right? And so in that scenario, I have a very unscientific suggestion. Are you ready for this, Crystal?
Yes. Blow my mind.
It is, what is your hell yeah number? Okay. And meaning when you send over packages 1, 2, 3 to them, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, package 1, if they ultimately chose package 1, which was the lowest investment amount, and they'd be like, okay, we're going to go with package 1. You say, hell yeah, let's do this. I'm excited about this. If they choose package 1, you do not want to say, oh God, I have to do this now. I'm going to resent this because I was hoping they would pick package 3 or package 5 or whatever it is. And so again, in those like very unscientific situations where you don't really know, you don't have a directional sense of like what their budget appetite is, you just have to pick a number that you'd be excited about. And there's a lot of other like details about kind of the art and science of pricing, but like this is, I think can be helpful.
Yeah. And again, I love how on your YouTube channel, you have coaching sessions that you put up of previous clients and students that you've gone through. So I highly recommend anybody that's listening and they're like, I still like pricing just feels like this whole like wild west of just throw something out there. But no, there's actually a formula. Justin has formulas. You have templates, which is honestly why, you know, in looking at your program, I told myself, and I know myself well enough, I was like, I could figure this out. Like I'm smart. I'm savvy. I can do all the things, but I also know that I don't want to sit down and watch hours and hours and hours of YouTube where I'm like, did I do this and then oh no, I got to go back and do that. So let me go back and find this video and let me go find that. Like, I just wanted a Crystal. This is where you are today. Here's where you're going. And I mean, I'm just so excited to go on this journey. So, and I've made this commitment. So you ready for this, Justin? I haven't told you this yet. For anybody that's listening, you're hearing it live. I'm going to be one of your next success stories. I'm putting it out into the universe. I'm going to be part of the million sponsorships that happen.
Oh my gosh. I know it because you're speaking it into existence and I can't wait for you to come. You're going to DM me and you're going to be like, Justin, I just got a 5-figure deal.
Yeah.
And you're not even going to believe it. I can't wait for that.
It's going to be so incredible. And we could just talk about so many other nuances of sponsorships, but everybody go get on Justin's newsletter. Okay. This is another piece that I wanted to tell you is I got on your newsletter just because I wanted to see the sponsorship deals. To be fair, I didn't really know you. Okay. So don't be offended when I say this. I didn't really even care what Justin was saying in his newsletters. I was like, I want to see how sponsorships work. But then I started reading it and I was like, oh, his videos on YouTube are edited so fun. Like if you thought this was fun today, go watch his actual edited videos where he's got the sound effects. He's got like all the things. Go check it out. And we're going to have a link to check out if Justin has one of his cohorts happening with the Brand Creator Wizard program, because it is Brand Deal Wizard. I said it wrong. Brand Deal Wizard.
Brand Deal Wizard. You've got it. Thank you. Again, you're so kind. I promise I'm not paying her to say this, guys. Yes. Like she is like, you're going to be an affiliate soon, hopefully. But I want to real quickly touch on something you said at the very beginning, which was like, you didn't know me, right? Like before Craft and Commerce, that conference, you had no idea who I was. And I think that this is a really, really important lesson for everyone listening, which is that you may feel as though you've been saying the same thing over and over and everyone's heard your message and they've seen your pitch and they know what you're doing and your whole shtick and all this stuff too. But that is so false. Like there are so many people in this world, whatever niche you're in, there's so much potential. If you think that, it's so saturated on social media now, there's no way I could ever stand out, anything like that. Like that is complete and utter garbage. Like there is a room, there's a lane for everyone. If you have a unique perspective. In fact, I actually have the keynote. I actually shared the keynote that I did on stage at that conference on my YouTube channel. I actually think it's an unlisted video. I need to publish it. But I talked about this fact of like, if you have a perspective, if you have kind of a spiky point of view about something, there's always going to be an opportunity for you. And so if there's any takeaway that you have from this conversation, I really hope it's one of optimism. It's one of like, there is a path for everyone here. The creator economy, there's billions and billions of dollars being spent each year, year over year, it's like growing in this space, whether it's brand partnerships or opportunities directly to get more customers or leads or whatever. There's so much opportunity. And so if anyone is here listening and you're pessimistic and you've got your arms crossed and you're one of those get off my lawn type people, please hear me. This is, I'm speaking directly to you that there is opportunity for each and every one of you. I really, truly believe that.
Oh my gosh. Like I am so appreciative of all the wisdom that you have shared here today and the sound effects. I mean, we couldn't have done
Okay,
it
here we
without
go. Here we go. We couldn't have done it without the sound effects.
But I want to wrap up today with, I have 3 rapid fire questions that I ask all of my guests. So are you up for that? Are you
I'm
good to
ready.
go?
Let's do this. I'm an open book.
Okay. So the first one is, what piece of advice would you give to a brand new podcaster?
Brand new podcaster is you got to have video with your podcast. I truly believe that. I started my podcast in earnest only 6 months ago, or back in end of January, and it was a video first show, a video first podcast, because I believe all of the tools and opportunities that are being made available to help with discovery of your podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and now TikTok. I saw there's going to be able to import your RSS feed, and there's so many opportunities for a content format that historically has been so difficult to grow. There's no discoverability and very little discoverability in podcasts, and so I'm super bullish and excited about the prospect of growth on some of these social media platforms that there is with podcasting. And so that would be my main piece of advice is just if you have a fear of being on camera, get over it.
Get over it. Make it happen. Okay, that's a great one. Okay, so this one's a 2-part question. What is the dream podcast you would love to be on? And who is your dream podcast guest?
Oh man, this is good. Okay, so it's probably the same person for both answers. So Amy Porterfield, she has really influenced my journey. In fact, I got the chance to meet her at Craft and Commerce, and she was at there was a speaker's dinner, and I was so nervous, Crystal. I was shaking. I was like, am I really gonna go up to her? But I went up to her. I had to tell her. I went up to her. She was at another table talking with the bigwigs or whatever. And I went up and I was like, Amy, I just wanted to tell you how much impact you had on my journey. I blacked out. I don't even remember what I said. And I was but she was so gracious. She stood up and she was so thoughtful and listening, and she was so kind, and I have being on her show one day, because I learned so much from her and take so much information from her, everything she's built over the years. And so being on her show, as well as having her on my show, and helping her kind of take her sponsorship game to the next level would be a dream.
Oh my gosh, we're putting it out into the universe. It's going to happen.
Yes.
It will happen. Online Marketing Made Easy, Justin, is coming for you. It's going to happen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The last question I have for you is, do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
100%. I am a perfectionist, and it's been a skill that I've had to unlearn because again, going back to the vision, going back to the large North Star, if I am the person, me, responding to all 31,000 people on my newsletter who are emailing me back every time I send out an email, because I get hundreds and hundreds of emails now. It's a funny thing when you ask people to say, hey, hit reply to this email and tell me blah, blah, blah. People actually do. It's oh, wow, you multiply that by thousands of people, right? And so it's for a long time, I took pride in that. It has to be me. That's why people are, joining my course, and they follow me, and it's got to be me, right? And so I was very much a perfectionist in that sense. And so it really took a sense of humility of me to realize, okay, there's a graceful way to be able to have other people, whether it's a VA or other people on my team, step in and being hey, thank you so much for the email. Here's resources, this type of thing. People aren't necessarily always needing an answer directly from me. Sometimes it's okay if they hear back from someone else, and they'll get equally as excited about that. And so a lot of it, my perfectionism and the way in which I want to serve people, I do have to check myself sometimes and realize hey, I can still do that in a way that's still, aligned with my personal integrity and all that stuff too. And so that attitude has been one of evolution and learning for me over the last year, I would say, to take me into the next chapter.
That's awesome. And I think that having that release gives you the ability to serve more people too, and help you go towards that vision. So that's incredible.
I mean, like that thing you said around the creative fire, where it's like you make a piece of content, even if it doesn't perform well, you're like, I don't care. That was amazing. I love it. Like I find so like real quick, I know we're ending, but like I made a big change in my business like about a month ago. Is I hired a second in command, basically. And her name is Dee. She was one of my students, actually, if you can believe it, in an early cohort of the course, and she was like a superstar. And so I hired her about 2 years ago to help, kind of freelance, like help with the community and like help with office hours and like stuff. But I kept giving her more and more stuff because she's amazing. And I finally was like, okay, there's so many moving pieces in my business now. I've got the newsletter, the YouTube, all these sponsorships. I've got the courses. There's like so much. And I can't do it all. I had a VA and I even couldn't do it all. And so I was like, I need someone to kind of keep the lights on. And so literally about a month ago, I promoted Dee to be the director of operations and community. And so her purview is like, running everything, keep the lights on. And like, I'm going to be over here in this like cave, like just doing my zone of genius, my special sauce of like making this content, doing these coaching calls and like having like that's thought leadership, speaking, writing, like those are the things that are like really going to move the needle for this big mission. Right. And so that's the next chapter for me, I would say, is like learning to be that person and not be in the weeds as much. And so it's like, it's scary, but it's exciting, I would say.
That's so awesome. And I love that you're stepping into, I mean, what you obviously are so good at. And I feel like, I mean, you were born to be a creator. I mean, like, let's just call it what it is. Like you were born to be doing all of this. So Justin, tell everybody where they can learn more about you and learn about your program too, and see if it's available when this episode goes live.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, it's creatorwizard.com/join. That's the free newsletter. And as Crystal mentioned, like I send it out every week, actually multiple times a week, where the main draw is like, even if you don't give a crap about who I am, I'm going to send you paid sponsorship opportunities. Okay. Yes. So if you don't, want to learn anything, I'm going to be like, hey, click this link and this brand's going to pay you. Like if you really want low hanging fruit here, that's why you want to sign up. creatorwizard.com/join. And then honestly, to your point, I don't even ever plug the course. Like, I really don't. It's like, I don't care if you ever pay me. If you want to be on the newsletter, if you want to watch my videos, 99% of people are never going to pay me, and I don't care. Like, really, truly, that's how I believe. And if you really want to find out more, you'll stumble down the rabbit hole and find the course.
And then you'll end up like me, where I'm like, Justin, just take my money and tell me what to do. That's how we ended up here today.
It's like it's the anti-sales pitch, probably to my detriment.
Exactly. No, it's fantastic. I appreciate all the wisdom that you shared here today, because I know you just blew like so many people's minds, and they're going to be listening to this over and over again and saying, okay, I need the mindset coaching and I need to make this happen for sponsorships for their content. So thank you so much for everything you shared.
Thanks so much again for having me.
I told you he was going to be fantastic, and he did not disappoint. And it was so funny because I did not tell him, right? I didn't prep him before we started talking, and then like tell him like, hey, by the way, I bought your program and I've been like totally nerding out on all the things that you've been doing. But when we recorded this, I was in the middle of getting pitched about these sponsorship deals. And it's funny because I've gone back and watched some of his old YouTube videos, and where he's talking about people get pitched all the time. And it's just how they approach working with that brand, or what it can be like to really be a professional, like show up as a professional creator and treat these brands with the respect and with the professionalism that not everyone is willing to do. And you can make all the difference in the world. So since I worked with Justin, I've gone on to make over $5,000 with sponsorships in a short period of time. Yes, $5,000 of additional revenue that I had not projected. I didn't even think about sponsorship this year, because I kept telling myself like, I'm not really ready. I don't have millions of followers. I don't have, the coveted 10,000 people on Instagram following me, or, a 20,000 like subscriber YouTube channel, or even like 10,000 people on my email list. So I kept having all of this negative self-talk that's like, I'm not big enough. Who am I? Like all the imposter syndrome that we all talk about and we all experience. Well, Justin helped me overcome that, and I can see what I'm worth and I know what I can ask for when it comes to a sponsorship. And I have the confidence to say no if someone's not willing to pay it, because I have had these other brands that have paid me exactly what I'm worth, and I just can't wait to pitch more. These pitches came to me. I didn't even pitch these brands. And this is what Justin teaches. He teaches you how to pitch brands, how to follow up. I mean, he has a whole process that is just, it blew my mind when I devoured his program, I think in a weekend. It's so good. It is so, so good. So I'm a proud alumni of the Brand Deal Wizard program, and it was incredible. And he actually has a free masterclass that I want you to go check out. So it's called How to Craft a Sponsorship Pitch No Brand Will Ignore. I want you to go to crystalprofit.com/sponsorship to check it out. I'm a proud affiliate of this program now because, like I said, I paid for it and I immediately got my money back and then some, because I was able to land like 2 deals back to back that came to me. These came to my inboxes and I was able to make some money off of them. So go check them out. Y'all been asking me about sponsorships. I haven't known like who to talk to, who to send you to. He's the man. He's the guy. Go, like, you're going to fall in love with him, his personality. He is someone that I trust his opinion, and he is going to treat you so well and take care of you. So again, go to crystalprofit.com/sponsorship, sign up for his free training, learn from him, go to his YouTube channel, check him out, and listen to all the cool brands that he's worked with and all the cool people that he's been able to help. But I am just so grateful. So Justin, if you're listening, thank you again so much for how much value you added to this podcast, to this audience, because it blew my mind. And I know it will blow so many people's mind that are listening to this today. So thank you so much again, Justin. But that's all I have for you. So if this is your first time tuning in, what an incredible episode to listen in on. Make sure that you hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening. And as always, remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Hey, Profit Podcast listeners. Thanks for sticking around to a little bit after the episode to hear this special message, because I want to hear from you. We are starting a new segment called Fan Mail Shoutouts, and I want to hear from you, and I want to hear your questions. What do you want to know? What questions have you been dying to ask me? So here's how to make this happen. Go to the app where you're listening to this podcast right now. Go there. I'll wait a second. Okay. Now, once you're there, you're going to see a hyperlink at the top of the episode description that says, send Crystal a text message. And that's all I want you to do. Send me a text. It could be casual, informal. It could be totally anonymous. Or if you want, you can include your name and the name of your podcast or content wherever you are creating, and I will give you a special shout out in an upcoming episode. So again, go to the show notes for where you're listening to this episode right now, and it will say, send Crystal a text message. And I cannot wait to hear from you and give you a shout out in an upcoming segment of Fan Mail Shoutouts.